Welcome, dear listener. Take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out softly through your mouth. Again, in through the nose. Hold it just a moment and then release. Let the tension melt from your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench. Your hands can rest by your sides or over your heart, wherever they feel safe. You're here. And there's nothing else you need to do but listen and let the gentle rhythm of the story carry you like a boat rocking quietly on a moonlit sea. Let the outside world imagine the soft glow of a candle, a warm hearth in a corner, a window open just slightly, and a hush in the air that only night can bring. Our story tonight begins in a place that feels ancient yet familiar, a time long past but somehow close. Our story begins in the hills of northern France. In the hush of the 13th century, inside a monastery nestled in a cradle of trees, where the wind passes gently through tall pines and distant bells ring like echoes from dreams. The stone walls of the monastery are thick and cool, lined with ivy that sways ever so slightly in the breeze. It is late evening, and the monks have finished their prayers. The corridors are quiet, save for the occasional creak of timber or the soft flutter of wings near the rafters. In a room tucked away from the larger halls, a single candle flickers, casting golden light onto a wooden desk. Here sits brother Eloin, a patient and careful scribe. His hands are steady, though aged with ink stains and the soft curve of parchment beneath his touch. He dips a fine quill into ink, so dark it seems to swallow the candlelight. Then he lifts a tiny brush, one reserved for the delicate work of illumination, and reaches for a small jar of gold leaf outside the arched window. A gentle night wind rustles the leaves, and the stars begin to glimmer in the velvet sky. Inside, there is only the sound of parchment being turned, and the rhythmic stroke of brush against vellum. Brother Eloin hums to himself a tune without words, low and slow, a melody that flows like water over smooth stone. He is working on a page from the Book of Hours, a devotional text made not just for reading, but for quiet reflection. And tonight's page contains an illuminated letter L, wrapped in vines of blue and green, with tiny gold roses curling around the edges. Now lean closer. See how he places the gold leaf, breathes lightly to fix it to the page, and taps it gently with the back of his brush. The gold gleams and then settles, still warm from the heat of his fingertips. As he works, something stirs near the open window, a soft flutter like silk in the air. A moth, small and pale, enters the room in silence, drawn not to the flame, but to the manuscript itself, to the sacred words and the warmth they seem to hold. There is an old belief among the brothers, passed down from one scribe to the next, that certain moths, not ordinary ones, but special ones, are drawn to holy language, to the ink of devotion and the shimmer of gold leaf. They say these moths were once whispers, soft breath from ancient saints, now given wings, sent to remind the scribe that what he writes is never truly forgotten. Brother Elohim pauses his brush. He sees the moth landing gently on the edge of the manuscript, right beside the golden letter. And he smiles, not with surprise, but with quiet understanding. He sets down his tools and sits back in his chair, letting the moment breathe. Outside, the wind hushes through the pines. Inside, the candle flickers, casting long, slow-moving shadows across the stone walls. The moth inches closer, its wings pale like cream, its body still resting beside the sacred text. And for a time, neither moth nor man moves, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Brother Elohim thinks of his mentor, long gone now, who once told him, "Let no word be wasted. Let every letter shine as if heaven itself might read it." He remembers how, as a boy, he would sneak into the scriptorium late at night, just to watch the older scribes at work, how the scent of ink and the sound of quills on parchment felt like magic. And now, all these years later, he is the one holding the quill, guiding the brush, inviting the moths. With a soft sigh, he lifts the brush again and continues his work, carefully tracing a vine down the side of the page, curling it into a spiral, adding a flower at the end, its petals tipped in gold. The moth remains quiet, still, as though it too is listening. And maybe it is because in this hush, in this sacred space, where candlelight meets shadow and gold leaf meets parchment, even silence has a sound. The fire in the hearth pops gently, and from outside an owl calls just once low and distant. Brother Elohim dips his brush, this time into a soft green, and begins painting a leaf beside the flower. Each stroke is gentle, slow, like the rhythm of a heartbeat at rest. He is in no hurry, for here in this room, time moves like honey, thick and golden, sweet and slow. This is the way of the scribe, to bring patience to paper, to breathe reverence into letters, to let ink carry prayer and gold carry light. And all the while, the moth stays a small, bright watcher. Rest now, dear listener. Let the candlelight of this story glow behind your eyes. Let the hush of the monastery settle in your breath. Let the gold leaf of Brother Elohim's work shine quietly in your mind. You are safe here. You are warm. You are gently fading into dreams. Settle into your space once more. Let your shoulders drop just a little more. Let your eyes grow heavier if they haven't already. Take in another soft breath through your nose and sigh it gently out through your lips. There is nothing else you need to go. No thought you need to hold on to, just you, your breath, and the story continuing like a quiet stream at dusk. Our tale returns to Brother Eloin, still seated at his wooden desk. The candle has burned lower now, its wax softening into a slow pool at the base. But the flame still dances steady and golden like a lantern swaying at sea. The moth hasn't moved. Its wings remain open, as if resting mid-blessing, still drawn to the shimmer of the illuminated page, the hush of sacred language, the devotion wrapped in ink and brushstroke. Brother Eloin tilts his head, slightly listening, not to a voice, but to a feeling, a soft stirring in the chest, like the memory of a lullaby. Outside, the pines sway gently in the breeze, and the stars overhead begin to wheel slowly across the sky, their movement. Too quiet to hear, but not too quiet to feel. He turns the page carefully, as though afraid to wake something. And there, on the fresh parchment, he draws a simple frame, a box where another letter will bloom. The next letter is an S, curved and elegant, soon to be dressed in tiny vines and blooming rosemary. Brother Eloin once read that rosemary in the time of Charlemagne was grown in every cloister garden, not only for its scent, but for its memory, for its power to steady the mind, and so he includes it often in his pages, not just as art, but as an offering, a quiet wish for clarity for those who one day may read these words.
He breathes out slowly, his hands steady, and he begins to sketch the delicate tendrils around the spine of the S. The moth flutters just once, its wings shifting as if in approval, and then it stills again. There's something holy in the silence between movements in the breath between brushstrokes, in the moment before gold touches the page. The candle flickers and the shadows move across the stone walls. Stretching like monks at prayer from somewhere beyond the scriptorium, the soft toll of a distant bell echoes through the corridor. Matins is hours away, but time here bends with the rhythm of breath and the light of the moon. Brother Eloin dips his brush again into a tiny shell filled with powdered lapis ground, so fine it shimmers even before it's touched the page. Brought long ago by a traveler from the east, it costs more than gold, but was given freely, because some things like beauty and stillness cannot be priced. He lays the blue gently into the curl of a leaf, and then into the eye of the S. A soft spiral of color that feels like twilight, cooled by the evening air, touched by the hush of stars. The moth shifts again just slightly, and its wings catch the candlelight. Reflecting it back in the faintest shimmer, Brother Eloin remembers an old tale, one whispered by a visiting friar, that if a moth touches gold leaf, the gold becomes memory. Held forever within the folds of the moth's wings, a message carried gently through the night air to whatever soul might need its comfort most. So he does not shoo it away, he welcomes it, lets it rest beside the sacred page. Lets it watch as the story unfolds, one letter at a time. He hums again a tune older than language, no words, just warmth, just rhythm, just the slow turning of thought into song.
The parchment is warm now beneath his hand. The candle's light has soaked into the vellum, And there is the scent of ink, of beeswax, and faintly lavender from the sachet kept near the sill. Outside, the wind has softened, and the sound of the forest has deepened into quiet. The kind of quiet that hums rather than speaks, that fills the chest with a sense of being held. Brother Elwin pauses, brush in hand. He looks down at the page, the S, nearly complete, wrapped in green and blue, a touch of gold at its base. And in that moment, he doesn't think about tomorrow or the pages yet unwritten. He doesn't think about how long it's taken, or how few now know the script he writes in. He thinks only of this page, this breath, this candle, this moth. He smiles and dips the brush, once more soothing. Now the bristles kiss the vellum, and the flower at the bottom of the letter opens petal by petal in silence, like a secret unfolding. You can feel it too, can't you? That warmth in your chest, that softness behind your eyes. Let your limbs grow heavier. Let your breath deepen just slightly. Let this monastery become your haven tonight. You sit beside Brother Elwin, or perhaps just beyond him, wrapped in a woolen shawl, listening to the hush of quill and brush, feeling the glow of the candle, watching the moth resting gently beside the sacred script. It is safe here. It is slow, and the world outside has fallen away. Only the sacred stillness remains. Sleep follows stories like these, soft and reverent, like moths drawn to golden letters in the dark. And now, just as Elwin turns to begin the next page, our story begins to lean into quiet once again, into breath, into warmth, into the deep folds of rest. Shall I go on and share the next stretch of night with you? Dear soul, sink once again into this softness. Feel the invisible blanket of quiet settle gently over your shoulders. Let your fingers unclench your forehead, smooth your thoughts, loosen and slow, like petals floating down a stream. You've come back to the monastery in the hills, and the candle still burns low, steady and golden, its light bending across the desk where Brother Elwin works, and you are safe here. Surrounded by stone, by night, by the hush of sacred hours. The moth is still beside him, wings folded neatly, as if it, too, is keeping vigil, and Brother Elwin, his hands practiced his heart, still moves his brush slowly across the parchment, finishing the curled S with a final touch of burnished silver. This silver, a rarity, gleams not sharply but softly like moonlight across water. Outside, the forest sighs, branches shifting in slow motion, the sound like linen being folded in a quiet room. It is a sound that asks nothing of you and gives only calm. The stars wheel a little farther now, and from somewhere, beyond the orchard wall, comes the distant sound of night birds, not in warning, but in song, gentle notes, spaced wide like thoughts just beginning to drift away. Brother Illumin leans back from the manuscript, rubbing the back of his hand, stretching the fingers that have written and painted for so many hours. He closes his eyes for just a moment and listens to the flame. And in the silence that follows, he remembers another night like this one many years ago. He had been an apprentice, then his beard not yet grown his robes. Still stiff from newness, his master had allowed him to stay late just once, to witness the lighting of the vigil lamp, a single flame kept burning through the darkest hours beside the book of Psalms, so that even the angels passing by unseen might pause to read. Eloin had not understood then what the silence was for, why so many hours were spent not speaking but listening, not rushing but resting in the act of writing now. He did. The gold was not just for beauty. The words were not just for learning. It was all a kind of offering, of breath, of time, of devotion made visible. He opens his eyes slowly and looks again at the moth still resting on the edge of the parchment, its antennae gently rising and falling with each quiet breath. He speaks then, not aloud, but inside himself, to the moth, to the night, to the quiet watcher that lives within every silent hour. If you carry this page with you, if you fold it into your wings, then may it find its way to someone in need, not of knowledge, but of peace. A single word, unspoken, but full of meaning, passes through him. Peace, he sets aside his brush and gently closes the small jar of gold leaf, fastens the cork on the ink bottle, and smooths a piece of linen across the page to keep it safe. The manuscript will rest now, just as he will. But before he rises, he pulls a small wooden box from the corner of his desk, unlatches it with care, and opens it slowly. Inside, tucked within layers of dried lavender and wool, are fragments of older pages, some unfinished, some faded, and some worn so thin with time that they are nearly transparent. These are not discarded, but treasured. For every letter, even those never completed, holds something sacred. He selects one small fragment, no bigger than a hand, and lays it gently beside the moth. A gift. The moth does not stir, but Eloin knows it will carry it when the time is right. He rises then, his knees stiff, his robe brushing the stone floor, and crosses the room to the window. He leans into the frame and looks out across the sleeping woods. The moon has risen silver and round, casting a soft glow over the treetops and bathing the monastery garden in pale light. The rosemary bushes sway slightly, as if nodding to him. In silence, he breathes in the scent of pine, of cold stone, of night herbs kissed by moonlight. and then slowly he returns to the desk. The flame hesitates, then vanishes into a thin stream of smoke, curling upward like a prayer released in the dark. The gold still catches the last glow, a quiet gleam as though lit from within. And in that moment, the moth lifts from the page, its wings moving silently, gracefully. It drifts through the window into the silver night, carrying with it something more than ink, more than words. A blessing, a breath, a softness meant for someone else, perhaps for you. And as you lie here now, with the quiet of the story around you, feel that same hush settle over your chest, over your shoulders, across your brow. Feel the slow rhythm of rest wrapping itself around. You like the folds of a monk's robe, like the stillness of ancient halls, like the silence between candle flickers. The story is not ending, only pausing, letting you drift deeper into the breath of sleep. The scribe sleeps now, and the moth flies on, and you, gentle listener, are held in that same sacred stillness. You're doing so well. Each time you return, you bring with you a little more calm, a little more stillness, like walking barefoot along the edge of a quiet stream. Let your hands rest. Let your breath come softly, and listen as the hush of the monastery wraps around. You once more, like soft wool, like parchment, warmed by candlelight. The night has deepened, now its silence, growing richer as if the sky has leaned closer, and the stars have slowed their dance to match the rhythm of your breath. Our story drifts gently now, following the moth as it lifts into the still night air, gliding without effort over the roof of the monastery, past the bell tower, past the garden where rosemary and sage whisper their secrets to the moon. The world below lies folded in shadow. The moonlight lays like lace across the fields, across the stone paths, across the hands of a sleeping world. The moth moves like a wisp of thought, a flicker of memory, a breath that has grown wings. It drifts across the hills toward a small cottage, tucked beneath an ancient tree, a place far from the monastery, but not forgotten. Inside, a young woman sits by a hearth, a cup of warm milk in her hands, the fire crackling softly nearby. Her eyes half closed, her fingers wrapped gently around the clay. She is not waiting, but resting. And yet something in the air stirs her. She turns her gaze to the window, where the breeze carries the faintest shimmer. A flick of wings, a pale flicker of movement. The moth has arrived. It settles on the windowsill, and for a moment, nothing happens. And then the woman smiles, as though remembering something she had never been told. Her shoulders soften, her breath deepens, and she closes her eyes. The story the moth carries is not one of words, not exactly. It is a feeling, a warmth, a quiet knowing that someone, somewhere, spent hours painting light into letters, not for glory, but for peace. And that peace now rests with her. The fire cracks again, a log shifting into embers. And the moth flutters once, then again, lifting softly into the rafters, its task done for now. And our story drifts gently back to the monastery. 2 stone walls wrapped in ivy to the hush of early morning, just beginning to stir in the dormitory. Brother Eloin sleeps, his hands resting over his chest, his breath slow and even. He dreams, but the dream is soft, not sharp or bright, just the echo of brushstrokes, the warmth of gold, the flutter of wings beside him. The bell tower above begins to hum, not ring, not yet, just the subtle tremble of wood as the morning wind brushes against the ropes. A light begins to touch the edge of the world, pale and cool, spilling over the tops of trees, across the monastery stones, into the narrow windows of the scriptorium. In that quiet room, the manuscript rests open where Eloin left it. The silver has set, the gold has cooled, the ink has dried into the parchment, becoming one with it. Not decoration, but presence, and even though the moth has gone, a single faint imprint remains, a soft dusting, barely there, as if light itself left a fingerprint beside the letter S. As the first rays of day reach the window, they fall upon the page, and for just a moment the gold gleams again. Not from the candle now, but from the sun itself. A new day, a new page awaits. But there is no rush. In this place, time is honored, not spent. Words are savored, not spilled. And peace is written, not in sentences, but in silence. Brother Eloin will return soon. He will stretch his arms and smile at the faint mark the moth has left. He will brew his morning tea, a blend of mint and thyme and something secret. And he will sit again at the desk, his hands already knowing where the next brushstroke will land. And perhaps tonight another moth will come or not. It does not matter. For what matters is the intention, the quiet offering, the care taken in each line. Just as you right now have taken care of yourself. By being here, by listening, by resting, this story is yours now to carry as you drift. You can imagine the hush of the monastery hallway, the scent of old books, the coolness of stone under bare feet, the warmth of woolen robes wrapped close at night, the soft glow of letters pressed into gold, the flutter of something sacred with wings. And you can know deep in your resting heart that peace, like a moth, finds its way, even across miles, even through silence. Even now, sleep follows peace as surely as the flame follows the wick. As surely as ink follows quill, as surely as you are following this soft story deeper and deeper into rest. You've come back again, and how gently. You've done so as though returning through a doorway that opens without sound, a threshold made of soft air and morning light. Let your body relax even more now. Let your spine soften. Let your breath deepen. Let your heartbeat slow to match the rhythm of a world that moves gently. A world where time stretches like golden threads pulled smooth across parchment. You're still in a monastery, still safe, still wrapped in quiet. The first light of day creeps across the hills, painting the tops of the pines with pale gold. The mist hasn't lifted yet. It curls around the roots of trees and lingers at the edges of windows, soft as wool, quiet as breath. In the courtyard, dew clings to the stones, and the scent of damp earth rises, not strong, but faint and clean like new parchment. Like a page just waiting to receive its story. Brother Eloin moves slowly, now walking down the narrow corridor toward the scriptorium. His robe brushes the stone with a low whisper, and his hand trails along the wall. Familiar, steady, he pauses by the door, his eyes adjusting to the early light, and smiles at the way it filters into the room, touching the manuscript on the desk as if blessing it anew. He walks in, sits quietly at his bench, and takes a long breath. This is the moment he loves most. Not the hours of painting, not even the work itself, but this stillness before the first stroke of the day, when everything is waiting soft and full of possibility. The parchment rests beneath his fingers, cool, smooth. Ready, he opens a new jar of ink, dark as a moonless sky, but with a hint of red, like the last edge of sunset held in shadow. Beside him, on a small wooden tray, are tiny stones ground into pigment. The blue of lapis, the green of malachite, the red of cinnabar, and the softest gold pressed into dust as fine as smoke. He takes up his brush, a fine-tipped tool he carved himself years ago, its bristles trimmed from the tail of a fox, soft, resilient. He dips it lightly into the ink and touches the page. The first stroke is always the slowest, like the first breath of a prayer meant not to be rushed, but to open something unseen. Today, he is painting a margin, just a quiet line that will frame a passage written in Latin scriptum sanctum. Sacred text copied with love, not just for reading, but for reverence. The moth is not here this morning, but Brother Eloin doesn't feel alone. Somehow, the presence remains in the page, in the air, in the hush that settles over his shoulders like the morning mist still resting in the corners of the room. He paints the line slowly, letting it stretch from edge to edge, and then adds a second line beside it, slightly curved. As if it were breathing between the two, he paints tiny leaves, each one no bigger than the head of a pin. They spiral gently in a pattern inspired by the garden vines that grow outside the refectory window. He doesn't count the leaves. He lets them unfold one after the next, guided by something older than habit, deeper than memory. And you, dear listener, are sitting quietly, just behind him, not seen, but gently present. You can feel the peace in the room. Feel it like warmth in your chest, a hush in your bones. You watch as he moves the brush, as ink becomes line, as line becomes leaf, and leaf becomes part of something whole. You don't have to understand Latin or know the shape of sacred symbols to feel what they carry: care, patience, light. The brush moves again, now dipping into green, the color of moss, of rosemary, of life holding steady through winter. He paints two small vines twining around the letter D, the first letter of a psalm, one meant to be read at sunrise to welcome the day, gently, without fear, without noise. And above the letter, he adds a bird, no more than 3 strokes of color, its wings. Open its head, tilted upward, a shape that feels like freedom. And silence, at once the fire has not yet been lit this morning, but the room is not cold. It holds the warmth of the day to come, the warmth of old stone and memory. Brother Illumin pauses, resting his brush on the tray. He lifts his gaze and watches a thin beam of sunlight move slowly across the floor, stretching the edge of the manuscript. Then, crawling softly across the margin, he's just painted. The green gleams faintly, and the gold, where it's been touched, catches fire for just a moment, not flame, but something brighter, more quiet, a shimmer that asks for nothing and gives everything. He smiles and breathes and begins again as he works. You can feel your own breath deepen. You can feel without effort, as though your breath has joined the rhythm of the story. The hush of brush and ink, the quiet of morning in a world that does not rush. The monastery is alive, but softly, so you can hear a bell in the far cloister, one single chime, then silence again. You are welcome here. You belong to this moment, and this moment belongs to peace. Take this as your cue to deepen, to loosen your grip on the day, to feel your body sinking into the folds of calm, into the softness beneath. You into the quiet. We are weaving together like threads. Your breath has slowed. Your mind is floating just above sleep. Let it hover there. Let it drift as we return gently to the cool stone walls and golden light of Brother Eloin's world. The morning has fully arrived now, though, in this monastery, even the day wakes slowly, with reverence, with intention. Outside, the window, the ivy leaves have warmed, in the sun, their deep green, shifting with the breeze, casting dappled shadows onto the stone floor, as if the garden is painting the monastery. From the outside in, inside, the scriptorium breathes with the rhythm of brush and ink. Brother Eloin has finished the vines around the D, and now he selects a thin sliver of wood, a tool used not for writing, but for lifting. He opens a small leather pouch and removes another fragment of gold leaf, so fine, so delicate, that even his breath can disturb it. He places it carefully over a tiny section of the letter and presses it gently with the back of the wooden tool. Not rushed, never rushed. Only the lightest pressure, enough to make it cling. Then he brushes away the excess, and what remains is not loud, not bright, but glowing like the memory of sunlight caught inside the page. This is how he marks each sacred beginning, with gold, with quiet, with care. The monastery's kitchen bell rings once, not for you, not for Brother Eloin, but for the novices gathering bowls, for the fire being stirred under the iron pot, where herbs and oats will soon become breakfast. But the scriptorium remains untouched by this bustle. A different kind of nourishment is made here. One for the heart, one for the soul, one for the quiet that lives just beneath thought. Eloin stands for a moment, stretching his legs, moving to the tall cabinet where the pigments are kept. He selects a dish of soft red ochre from the river bank, ground into dust, mixed with honey and just a touch of egg white to bind it. He returns to his place at the desk and paints a small border at the bottom of the page. A ribbon twisting gently the color of faded roses or sun-warmed clay beside the ribbon. He paints a small cluster of stars, not arranged as they are in the sky, but as they appear in dreams, gathered together, close, familiar, gentle. This page, he realizes, will mark the turning of the season, a passage celebrating midsummer, a hymn to the longest light. And so he adds a sun. Not the full sun, not blazing, but a soft gold circle, partly hidden behind clouds of silver and white. And beneath it, in a corner, he adds a line of text, not in Latin, but in the old tongue, the language his mother once whispered to him in lullabies. Let the light that rises also rest within. He paints it slowly, each letter small and curved like the edge of a feather, and as he finishes, he places the brush down and breathes again, a deep breath, one that fills the ribs and empties the mind. And you, gentle listener, have been sitting with him all this time, breathing as he breathes. You can feel the page in your own hands, cool and textured, alive with care. You can hear the silence of the scriptorium, not empty, but full, the kind of silence that hums gently. Just beneath, hearing that wraps around the heart and says, you can rest here, perhaps. You even see the moth again in your imagination, drifting once more through the morning light, its wings catching the shimmer of the page. Perhaps in its presence you feel your own breath lighten your own shoulders, unclench, and maybe, just maybe, you know without question that you are being offered something sacred, not from the page, not from the scribe, but from the quiet itself, a kind of trust, a kind of stillness, a kind of light that asks for nothing but welcomes everything. Brother Eloin closes the manuscript for now, not because the work is finished, but because he understands when to pause. He ties the velvet ribbon gently around the folio and places a small linen cloth over it to protect the gold from the day's warmth. Then he stands and stretches his back, listening to the creak of joints. Like old wood, like lived in stone. He smiles to himself, the kind of smile that needs no audience, and walks toward the garden door where rosemary waits and lavender leans into the morning sun. He walks slowly, as if the silence is walking with him, as if each footstep matters and you walk with him in your imagination, barefoot, calm, wrapped in a robe of soft wool, with the light just beginning to warm your cheeks. You step into the garden and everything smells alive, earth and herb and sun, and the air moves around you, not with presence. A world in balance, a day beginning, a soul at peace. Come again and settle deeper than before. Let the rhythm of the breath soften your chest. Let your body feel heavy and warm, as if you are lying beneath layers of woolen blankets, each one more peaceful than the last. You are in a garden now, not far from the scriptorium, but far enough that you can hear the rustling of leaves more clearly, the wind curling softly through rosemary and sage. The creak of an old wooden gate moving gently in the breeze. Brother Eloin walks between the rose bare feet, touching damp earth, feeling the steadiness of it, the patience that lives in soil. He stops near a bed of thyme, low to the ground, fragrant, buzzing faintly, with bees too sleepy to fly far. He kneels and places one palm gently over the ground. His other hand moves to a linen pouch at his side, and he removes a few tiny seeds no larger than grains of sand. This is not part of his scribe's work, and yet it is the same. The planting of seeds, the painting of gold, both are acts of care, of slow faith. He presses the seeds into the dirt, then smooths the soil with the flat of his fingers, the way one might smooth a wrinkle from a page or ease a crease from the corner of an old folio. You sit on a low stone nearby, a bench worn smooth by time, and you can smell the lavender on the breeze, its purple blossoms heavy with scent, its stems humming with life. A sparrow flutters past lands beside the garden wall and begins pecking gently at the moss growing in the cracks. It does not fear you because you are part of the piece. Here, you are wrapped in it. The way morning dew wraps itself around each leaf, quiet light, inevitable. Brother Eloin stands again, brushing soil from his hands. He turns his face to the sun, lets it warm his skin, and breathes in the sense of the garden in this moment. There is nothing he must do, no bell calling, no task, waiting only this breath, this garden, this space between. He walks back toward the cloister, now his steps slow, unhurried, as though each stone beneath his feet matters, as though the path itself deserves to be noticed. And you follow him not out of obligation, but because the movement feels natural, like the turn of a page, like the shifting of wind through a window left open. Inside, the air holds a different, quiet, cooler, stone-scented, as if the walls remember every prayer ever whispered within them. Eloin enters the refectory, a long narrow room with wooden tables lined with bowls and loaves of bread wrapped in cloth. The others are not here yet. The meal has not begun, but the room is ready, waiting. He moves to a corner shelf where a small clay jug rests. He pours water into a bowl and washes his hands, the sound of it soft. Like rain tapping gently at a shutter, he dries them on a linen cloth, folds it neatly, and places it back with care. Then he walks to the window and leans against the frame, looking out over the orchard where pears hang. Low on their branches, and a single raven sits high on a wooden post, its feathers dark against the light. In the monastery, ravens are welcome, not feared. They are seen as messengers, bridges between earth and sky. And so Eloin nods to the bird and watches it tilt its head, as if listening to something you cannot hear, something old and feathered and just out of reach. You stand beside him now, both of you, gazing outward, past the orchard, past the hills, into the place where sky meets land in a soft blur of blue. And in that space, you feel the quiet stretch even further, like a blanket being pulled gently over your shoulders. The raven lifts into the air, wings opening with a slow rhythm, not hurried, not sharp, but smooth and wide, like the turning of a great invisible wheel. Its shadow passes over the garden, and then, just as softly, is gone. Eloin smiles again, not at the raven, but at the stillness that follows it, and he turns and begins to walk once more. The library is not large, but it feels like it contains the world. Books line the shelves, some bound in leather, some in cloth, some so old. Their edges are soft as petals. He moves through them, running his hand gently over the spines, not pulling one down, just touching, just remembering. There is a book here, his favorite, tucked between a treatise on astronomy and a history of herbs. He pulls it down now, carefully, as if it holds a fragile light. Inside the cover is deep brown, stitched along the edges. A corner, slightly worn, where his thumb always rests. He opens it, slowly, and you see what he sees, a bestiary. Illustrated with care, each creature drawn with reverence, some real, some imagined, but all depicted with golden halos around their heads. He turns to the page with the moth, and there it is, wings, outstretched edges, gilded eyes, like polished amber. Below it, the text reads, Noctua, Sacra, the sacred night flyer, and in the margin, in his own hand, Illuminated has written a visitor of quiet. You look at the moth, and it looks back. And even though it is only paint and parchment, it feels alive, present, as though it knows you. You close your eyes for a moment and feel its wings not touching your skin, but brushing the edges of your thoughts, clearing them, gently making space, making silence when you open your eyes again. Illuminated is still beside you, still smiling softly, and the library feels not like a room, but like a place suspended between one breath and the next. Would you like to stay longer, to walk further into this story's soft unfolding? Come with me again into this hush of ink and parchment, into the folds of shadowed stone and dappled sunlight, where each moment lingers longer than the one before. Let your eyelids grow heavier, soft as silk, as your breath deepens just a little more. And if your thoughts try to wander, just let them, but gently bring them back. Like a lantern carried through a hallway, guiding your focus back to the quiet, back to the story, back to the warmth. The book remains open before you, its pages breathing ever so softly with the rhythm of the monastery itself. Brother Illuminated sits beside you again, his fingers resting lightly on the vellum, not to turn the page, not yet, but simply to feel its truth, its calm. He looks at the moth illustration, the gold still gleaming faintly, even in the gentle morning light, and speaks, not aloud, but with the quiet within you. They believed, he whispers, that moths who fluttered near sacred books were drawn not to flame, but to meaning, that they could sense the presence of divine language, of illuminated truth, and came to rest there, to warm themselves in something unseen. And so scribes would sometimes leave the scriptorium, windows cracked at dusk, not for air, but for visitors, for wings. He turns the page now, and you hear it, a sound like soft fabric, like something ancient and kind. On the next spread is a fox painted mid-step with eyes turned upward as if listening to stars. There is text below it describing how monks once believed that foxes guided lost souls, not with speech, but with presence, leading them gently, safely through forest paths that shifted at night. Eloin traces the words with one fingertip, a silent prayer, or perhaps a memory. And in that moment, the entire library feels alive. Not loud, not bustling, but gently breathing, like a great creature in slumber, with you resting inside it, protected, surrounded. He closes the book carefully and replaces it on the shelf exactly where it belongs, between the constellations and the herbs, and you rise to, not with effort, but with ease, as though lifted by the quiet itself. Together, you walk from the library, your footsteps muffled by thick stone, and woolen soles back through the cloister where the sun has now stretched into golden columns, casting long shadows between arches and turning the floor into a pattern of light and lace. There's a breeze, again, gentle like a breath against the cheek. It carries the faint scent of pears ripening in the orchard, and something floral, perhaps. The violet sweet of chamomile from the upper garden. The bell rings once. A low soft note, not demanding, just reminding, a presence more than a summons. Eloin turns toward the chapel, not quickly, but with calm purpose, and you follow. Inside, the air is cool and still, and cedar candles line the small altar, not flickering, but standing tall, as if they, too, are listening. The stained glass window spills soft color across the floor, not bright, but diluted by centuries. Rose and blue and gold in thin wash like watercolor on handmade paper. Eloin kneels for a moment, not in performance, but in surrender, not asking, but resting. And you stand nearby, eyes tracing the arc of the window where tiny glass moths nestle beside the wings of saints. That's when you realize the moth isn't just on the page, or in the garden, or fluttering in memory. It lives in this very space, hidden in symbols, woven in light, waiting. And somehow, this knowledge makes you feel warmer, safer, as though there is a pattern behind all things, even in dreams. After some time, Eloin stands again, bows his head, and walks quietly to the vestry door. He does not speak, and neither do you, but the silence between you feels full, like a bowl filled with warm milk. Outside the chapel, a young novice passes by, carrying folded linens. He nods with a shy smile, and his steps patter lightly along the stone hall, like a lullaby made of footsteps. You and Eloin walk once more, this time toward the upper corridor, where a series of small cells overlooked the orchard places of rest and reflection at the far end of the hallway, a window is open, its curtain fluttering inward, beckoning softly. Eloin opens the door beside it to his own room, bare but not empty. A wooden cot, a candle holder, a shelf of 3 books, and a stool where his robe hangs neatly in the window frame. A moth waits, not a memory, not a painting, but real. Its wings are speckled with tiny dots of white, and its body is still as if it too is listening. Eloin doesn't move closer. He simply nods as though the creature's been expected, as though it is welcome, and for a moment nothing happens. The world pauses. Then very slowly the moth lifts circles the candle on the small table and comes to rest again on the edge of his manuscript folio. The one he left open hours ago, gold leaf catches in its wings, not stuck, but glowing, as if the creature was never a visitor, but a bearer of light, a silent scribe in flight. And in that moment, you feel your breath deepen again, your body sink even more completely into the rhythm of rest. Welcome back to this gentle space where stories fold softly around you like a warm shawl. Let your shoulders fall again. Release the tension tucked there and feel your body settle deeper into calm. Imagine now the soft flicker of candlelight shadows dancing quietly on the rough stone walls, the air carrying a faint scent of beeswax and old parchment, and somewhere, just beyond the window, the murmuring of trees in a summer breeze. Brother Eloin remains seated at his small wooden desk, the manuscript open before him, each page shimmering faintly with gold leaf and tiny strokes of color. The moth rests nearby its delicate wings, still catching the candle's glow, quietly watching, or perhaps guarding the sacred words. Eloin lifts his brush once more, this time to paint a single line of silver, not gold, but soft moonlight caught on vellum. His hand moves slowly, deliberate and tender, each stroke an echo of the night outside the mystery held in shadow and silence. He pauses to breathe, to feel the quiet pulse of the scriptorium, to listen for sounds only the heart can hear. Outside the garden hums with life unseen, the rustle of leaves in a slow dance with the breeze, the gentle tapping of a robin's beak, gathering twigs for its nest. Within this space of stillness, the boundaries between the world and the story begin to blur, and you feel yourself drifting as if carried on a feather floating downstream. The script on the page begins to shimmer softly, words alive with ancient light words that invite you to rest, to dream, to drift beyond waking thought. Eloin dips his brush again, this time into a pool of deep blue, like the sky just before dawn, and with a whisper of motion adds tiny stars twinkling near the margins. Each star is a pinprick of calm, a quiet invitation to close your eyes gently to sink further into comfort. You feel your own eyelids grow heavier, your breath slow and deep, your body relaxed and warm. The room fades around you, but the candle's light remains steady like a heartbeat, a lighthouse in the dark. And as the moth stirs, lifting softly from the page, you imagine its wings brushing against your skin, soft as a sigh, light as a lullaby. In this moment, you are wrapped in a timeless embrace, held between the pages of the manuscript, held between the wings of the illuminated moth, Elohim whispers a blessing, not with words, but with the steady rhythm of his brush, with the care folded into every line. You feel it wash over you, a gentle tide of peace, a quiet harbor where your mind can rest. The scriptorium seems to breathe with you now, each exhale slow and soft, each moment more still than the last. Outside, the sun dips low, casting long shadows across the stone floor, painting the world in gold and lavender hues. You imagine the rustle of moth wings, once more a final flutter, before night fully falls. And as the stars begin to twinkle outside the window, you feel yourself drifting closer and closer to sleep, ready to let go, ready to rest. Once more to this quiet corner of time and light, where soft whispers and gentle shadows weave a blanket of calm around you. Allow your breath to settle even further, each inhale slow and easy, each exhale releasing the day's weight, letting your body become as still as the pages before you. The monastery sleeps, now or almost, its ancient stones holding the silence like a deep, comforting breath in the scriptorium. Brother Elohim remains by candlelight, his eyes tracing the delicate curves of calligraphy, the shimmer of gold leaf catching in the flicker. The moth has settled again, this time upon the edge of the desk, its wings folding close like a secret kept just for this moment. Elohim's hand moves to a small vial beside him, filled with crushed lapis lazuli, a pigment so rare and precious that in the Middle Ages it was worth more than gold. He dips his brush, lightly painting a line of deep blue across the page, the color of a twilight sky where stars begin their quiet vigil. Each stroke is a gentle caress, an invitation to slow the mind, to rest in the beauty of creation. You hear the soft scratch of quill on parchment, a sound like raindrops falling on leaves, steady and soothing beyond the window. The night has deepened, and the first fireflies appear tiny points of living light, dancing like whispered prayers through the cool air. Elohim leans back, briefly closing his eyes, listening to the slow pulse of the night, the rustle of branches in the breeze, and you breathe with him deep. And you breathe with him deep and even, feeling the calm spread from your chest down through your arms to the tips of your fingers. He opens his eyes again, and picks up the manuscript once more, turning to a page filled with tiny illustrations, delicate vines curling around saints and angels. You notice how the gold leaf shines, not harsh or glaring, but soft like the first light of dawn or a gentle touch on the skin. Eloin's voice is a whisper, now barely more than the rustle of vellum, telling you of a medieval tradition, where scribes believed that painting sacred images could invite the presence of angels, that each brushstroke was a prayer, each color a hymn, each glimmer of gold a bridge to something beyond. You feel that presence here, now filling the room, wrapping around you like a warm shawl. Outside, the garden rests under a silver moon, its herbs glowing faintly, and the soft flutter of moth wings echoes once more. Eloin sets down his brush and gazes out the window, watching the quiet ballet of light, and its wings catch the candlelight, sending flickers of gold across the stone. You watch it rise, rising higher, floating gently like a dream ascending. And as the moth disappears into the soft darkness above, you feel yourself slipping deeper into rest, held safe, held calm, held peaceful. Let yourself go now into the stillness, into the gentle night. Welcome back to this tranquil space where time stretches softly and quiet moments unfold like petals. Feel the calm wash over you again. Your breath steady and slow, your body melting deeper into comfort. The monastery's stone walls hold the hush of night, casting long, gentle shadows, and the faint scent of aged parchment lingers in the air. Brother Eloin sits once more at his desk, the manuscript open before him, each page a tapestry of color and gold, each word a whisper from the past. The moth returns to rest near the pages, its delicate wings still shimmering faintly as though touched by some unseen light. Eloin's hand moves with care, dipping his brush into a pool of soft crimson, the color of dried rose petals. A pigment made from crushed insects, a curious fact from medieval times, where beauty often came from surprising places. With each stroke, he paints a gentle border, twining around the text like a vine, slow and steady. A quiet rhythm to soothe the mind. Outside the window, the orchard sleeps beneath a sky full of stars. The leaves rustle softly in the cool breeze, a lullaby whispered by nature itself. The world around you becoming a soft blur, like a fading dream. Eloin pauses to blow out the candle, but not before the flame casts a last golden glow across the shimmering pages, illuminating the script one final time. Darkness settles gently in the room, but the warmth of the story remains like embers glowing beneath. Ash, the silence is comforting, a soft blanket wrapped around your shoulders and further into peace. Remember the belief Elwyn once told you, that these moths were drawn not to flame, but to the sacred words themselves, that they carried a message, a blessing carried on wings of light. And now, in the quiet dark, you sense that message wrapping around you like a whisper, soft and sure. Allow yourself to be carried, to be held, to rest. The monastery sleeps with you, now its ancient stones, keeping watch, and you, too, are held in the tender arms of night. To this sanctuary of quiet and light, where every breath you take is a soft ripple on still water. Feel yourself sinking deeper now into the gentle calm of the monastery's night. The stone walls absorbing the silence, the flickering, candlelight, a steady heartbeat. Brother, Elwyn opens the manuscript again, the pages delicate beneath his fingers, the gold leaf shimmering faintly. Like secret stars caught in vellum skies, the moth hovers near its wings, catching the candle's glow, as if it carries the very light of the manuscript itself. Illowing traces the outline of a tiny vine, its leaves painted in soft greens and blues, a medieval symbol of growth and hope, reminding scribes and readers alike that even in dark times, life and light continue to flourish outside the window. The orchard whispers with the wind, a gentle rustling of leaves, and the distant call of a nightingale you breathe with the rhythm of the night. Each inhale calm, each exhale releasing any lingering tension. Elwyn's voice, soft as a breeze, tells you of a curious medieval custom, where monks would often inscribe blessings into the margins of their manuscripts, tiny prayers hidden in the vines and flowers, meant to bring peace and protection to anyone who read them. He pauses for a moment, as if listening to a voice only he can hear, then continues his work with quiet reverence. The moth settles gently on the edge of the page, its delicate legs barely touching the vellum, and you imagine its tiny heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the scribe's brush. The candle flickers softly, casting shadows that dance lightly on the walls, and you feel the warmth of that light wrap around you like a tender embrace. Your eyes grow heavier still, your body melting into softness, your mind drifting gently towards sleep. In this peaceful moment, you are safe, you are calm, you are home. Welcome back to this sacred quiet, where the soft breath of night folds gently around you, like a velvet cloak, weightless and warm. Feel your body sink deeper, now each muscle softening, each breath slowing as you enter the calm of this ancient place. Brother Elwyn remains at his desk, bathed in candlelight, his brush poised over the parchment, ready to add the next delicate flourish. The moth flutters near again, its wings shimmering with tiny sparks of gold like a living piece of the manuscript itself. He dips his brush into a pool of emerald green, a color made from crushed malachite, a precious stone that medieval artists prized for its deep, vibrant hue. With slow, tender strokes, he paints curling leaves, gently entwining the text below. You feel the calm rhythm of his hand, steady and sure, a lullaby in color and light. Outside the window, the garden sleeps under a quilt of stars. The soft murmur of leaves brushing together like a whispered song of the night Elohim's voice. Almost a breath itself shares a quiet story of how medieval monks believed that every painted leaf and flower held a secret meaning, a blessing for the soul who beheld it. That the tiny details were messages of hope woven into the fabric of the book. The moth lands softly on the edge of the page, its fragile wings barely stirring the still air, and you imagine the gentle flutter of its flight like the slow beating of a heart. The candlelight flickers once more, casting warm, dancing shadows on the stone walls, and you feel a deep sense of peace settling over you like a gentle wave. Your eyelids grow heavy, your breath deepens, and the world around you fades gently into softness. Held here in this moment, you are wrapped in the quiet magic of the night, safe and calm, ready to drift into dreams, where soft shadows and flickering candlelight wrap you in quiet warmth. Feel yourself settle once more, your breath a slow, calming wave, your body sinking deeper into comfort. Brother. Eloan's hand moves steadily, the brush gliding softly across the vellum, painting delicate patterns of crimson and gold. The moth hovers, close its wings, shimmering with a subtle glow. Eloan pauses for a moment to gaze out the window at the moonlit orchard, where silver leaves whisper softly in the breeze. He recalls a medieval tale of how some scribes believed that the presence of a moth was a sign of blessings and protection, that these fragile creatures carried prayers on their wings. His voice, a gentle murmur, shares this belief with you, inviting your mind to wander. Through the cool night air and rustling leaves, the candle flickers, softly casting playful shadows on the stone walls, and you feel the soothing rhythm of the flame. Your eyes grow heavier still, your breath deep, and even your body warm and relaxed. The scriptorium feels like a quiet cocoon, holding you safe and sound as the moth takes flight again, its glowing wings tracing gentle patterns in the air. You imagine floating beside it, weightless and free, carried by the soft night breeze. As you drift further into peace, the manuscript's golden letters seem to shimmer, whispering stories only the heart can hear. You are wrapped in calm, held in the tender embrace of night. Welcome back to this sanctuary of calm, where soft light and whispered stories wrap gently around you. Feel your breath slow and steady. Each inhale deep and soothing, each exhale releasing any remaining tension. Brother. Elowen's brush dances lightly across the page, painting fine lines of gold and sapphire. Blue each stroke, a quiet hymn to the night. The moth rests nearby, its wings catching the flickering candlelight, casting tiny golden sparks into the shadows outside. The garden sighs softly, the leaves rustling in the tender breeze, and the distant call of a nightingale adds a melody to the stillness. Elowen shares with you a quiet secret of medieval manuscripts, how some pages were believed to hold magical properties that could heal the sick or bring comfort to the weary. The colors and gold were not just decoration, but a bridge between the earthly and the divine. You feel that bridge here now, between the story and your own peaceful rest. The candle flickers once more, its flame steady and warm, and you feel yourself drifting, floating softly on a cloud of calm. The moth takes flight again, its delicate wings brushing the air, and you imagine following it gently through the quiet halls of the monastery, each step slow and soft, each breath deep and even. The night holds you close, safe and serene. Welcome back to this quiet sanctuary, where soft candlelight and whispered stories wrap around you like a warm, gentle breeze. Feel your breath deepen and slow your body, sinking further into comfort each exhale, releasing the day's last tension. Brother Elowen's brush moves softly across the vellum, painting delicate flourishes of ruby and gold, each stroke a tender prayer etched in color. The moth hovers nearby, its wings catching the candles, flicker, glimmering like a tiny living jewel. Outside, the night garden hums softly, leaves rustling in a gentle dance, and the distant song of an owl echoes through the still air. Elowen speaks in a voice barely louder than a sigh, telling of how medieval scribes believed the light in illuminated manuscripts held the power to connect heaven and earth, that every gilded letter was a beacon of hope. You feel that hope now, surrounding you like a soft glow, lifting your spirit and quieting your mind. The candle flickers, gently casting long shadows that sway slowly on the stone walls, and you feel your eyelids grow heavy, your breath even and steady. The moth rises once again, its wings beating softly in the still air, and you imagine yourself drifting beside it. Weightless and calm together, you float through the quiet monastery halls, the soft echo of footsteps, a lullaby to your soul. The world around you fades to gentle darkness, and you are wrapped in peace, held safe in the arms of night. Once again, to this quiet, glowing space where soft shadows cradle you gently, and the warmth of candlelight lingers like a tender hug. Feel your breath deepen now, each inhale slow and soothing, each exhale releasing any remaining tension, letting your body soften and settle. Brother Iloan returns to his manuscript, his brush gliding like a whisper across the vellum, adding delicate touches of gold and deep sapphire. The moth rests nearby its wings, catching the candle's flicker, shimmering like a tiny guardian of light outside. The night garden murmurs softly, the gentle rustle of leaves in a cool breeze, and the distant hoot of an owl weaving a lullaby. Eloan's voice, barely above a breath, shares a story of how medieval monks believed their work was a form of meditation and prayer, each letter a sacred act, each illumination a celebration of divine beauty. You feel that sacredness now surrounding you in a cocoon of calm, lifting you softly toward rest. The candle's flame dances quietly, casting slow-moving shadows on the ancient stone, and you feel yourself drifting deeper into comfort. The moth takes flight once more, its wings a gentle shimmer in the dark, and you imagine floating beside it, weightless and free. Together, you glide through the monastery's peaceful halls, the quiet echo of your breaths blending with the night. The world fades softly into stillness, and you are wrapped in a tender, peaceful embrace, where quiet whispers and soft candlelight wrap you in a tender embrace. Feel your breath slow and deepen your body, melting further into calm. Each exhale, releasing all that no longer serves. Brother Eloan's brush moves with delicate care, painting fine veins of gold across a leaf motif, each stroke a soothing rhythm, a quiet prayer in color and light. The moth flutters nearby, its wings catching the candle's glow, shimmering like a tiny flame in the night. Outside, the orchard sighs softly, leaves rustling in a cool breeze, and the distant song of a nightingale adds a gentle melody to the stillness. Eloan's voice, soft as a sigh, shares a medieval tale about how some believed that illuminated manuscripts were enchanted objects, that the light in the gold could guide the soul to peace. You feel that peace here now, a gentle light wrapping around you, lifting you softly toward rest. The candle flickers, gently casting slow-moving shadows on the stone walls, and you feel your eyelids grow heavy, your breath deep, and even the moth rises once more, its wings beating softly in the still air, and you imagine yourself drifting beside it, weightless and calm. Together, you float through the quiet monastery halls, the soft echo of footsteps, a lullaby to your soul. The world around you fades gently into darkness, and you are held safe in the tender arms of night. Once again, to this quiet sanctuary of soft light and gentle shadows, where every breath you take draws you deeper into calm and peace. Feel your body relax further now, each muscle releasing tension, your breath slow and steady. A steady rhythm like a quiet stream. Brother Eloin sits softly at his desk, his brush gliding gently across the vellum, painting tiny golden stars that shimmer like distant lights. The moth flutters near, delicate as a whisper, its wings catching the candlelight. Shimmering with quiet magic outside, the orchard breathes softly in the night breeze, leaves rustling gently. A lullaby sung by nature itself, Eloin's voice, soft as the wind. You feel the magic of that belief now, a warm glow inside your chest, spreading softly through your whole being. The candle flickers with a gentle pulse, casting playful shadows that dance slowly on the walls. Your eyelids grow heavier, your breath deepens, and the world around you fades into a soft, velvety darkness. The moth rises once more, its wings beating slowly in the quiet air. And you imagine yourself drifting beside it, weightless and free together. You float silently through the monastery halls, the echoes of your calm breaths blending with the stillness. You are wrapped in peace, held safely by the quiet night, where soft candlelight and gentle whispers carry you deeper into stillness and calm. Feel your breath slow and deepen. Now, your body sinking further into comfort, each exhale releasing the last of the day's worries. Brother Eloin's brush moves with tender grace, painting delicate golden lines across the vellum. Each stroke a quiet hymn of light and hope. The moth flutters close, its wings shimmering softly in the candle's glow like a living piece of the manuscript's magic outside. The orchard sleeps beneath a blanket of stars. The gentle rustle of leaves, a soothing song, and the distant call of a nightingale wraps the night in melody. Eloin's voice, soft and warm, reminds you that these illuminated pages were not just books, blessings, and dreams. The gold leaf catching the light like tiny stars, guiding your mind to rest. The candle flickers gently one last time, casting soft shadows that sway slowly on the stone walls. The moth takes flight once again, its delicate wings beating softly in the still air. Imagine yourself drifting beside it, weightless, calm, and free. Together, you glide through the quiet halls of the monastery, the silence wrapping you in a tender embrace. You are safe, you are peaceful, you are ready to rest. Thank you for sharing this gentle journey with Brother Eloin and his illuminated moth. May your dreams be soft and light, and your sleep deep and calm. Good night.